Let's talk about coaling towers today on Austin's American Flyer.
As the steam engine grew in size and tenders grew in size, there needed to be a way to get the coal loaded quickly and efficiently into the tender, and that's how the coaling tower was developed. Here's my coaling tower, made by American Flyer in 1955 and 1956. It includes a 3-button controller that has a button that opens and closes the bucket, retracts the bucket, and then there's a hopper that the coal is unloaded from the bucket into, and by depressing the next button it will dump it into the waiting coal car below. Here we see an early American Flyer O-scale coaling tower, very simple. And here is a coaling tower that was made between 1946 and 1950 by American Flyer. And here is a picture taken from a video clip from the Nevada Northern Railroad, a trip I was able to take 2 years ago. And here's a coaling tower that still exists, although they're not currently using it. And at some point it was filled with sand, and so they've been talking about cleaning it up and putting it back into operation. But at this point they're driving bucket loaders up a ramp and dumping coal into their tenders. So that is their current way of loading their tenders. A little over a year ago, I took a trip to a town not terribly far away from my home called New Buffalo, and discovered, much to my delight, that not only did they have a train museum there, but they had a coaling tower. And so I took some pictures and video of that and hoped that that might make a nice video at some point. And more recently, I went back with my drone to do a little more video, and I hope you find this interesting. I certainly did. In addition to the enormity of the structure, I was also fascinated with the fact that there were some original signages still on it, with at the top there being one that looked like it was made by a company called Roberts and Schaefer. So I did some research. I also found in the museum at least 2 pictures that looked to me like one was maybe of this coaling tower and possibly a second of a previous coaling tower. And some of the other indications that I found were the following. The Pierre Marquette rail line, which was later joined by Grand Trunk, were the original owners of this trackage. It's now C&O. And I should say CSX, excuse me. And the original cooling tower, built in 1921, was 250 tons, and then this was built in 1942 and was able to manage 300 tons. As you can see in these clips with me at the base of this tower, it is sizable. It appears that it's about 100 feet tall, give or take 10 feet, and is made out of reinforced concrete. And as you notice in some of my flybys, somehow they managed to not only pour the structure with the internal bunkers and then of course all the metal that was necessary to transfer the coal around, but the roof was also done with concrete, which I found fascinating. So because of all that, these structures still stand because they are enormous and would be very costly to remove. And another pleasant surprise, about 30 minutes away was another cooling tower. And as you can see, as I fly alongside this one, it shares some similar characteristics to the one in New Buffalo. This one happens to be located in Michigan City. And it's interesting because there are some things on this one that seem to be missing from the other one. Whether or not they ever looked identical, I can't tell you. But I thought I would point to the section to the left side of the building as we first look at it, and you can see what looks to be two garages, and I believe those are where coal cars were positioned, and then there were drop gates underneath them that would go down into a pit, and then there were these small carts, probably just one, and by small it still would carry a lot of coal, that would go up inside that closed tunnel up the side of the tower, and then dump the coal into a huge bin at the top. And then there would be chutes underneath the tower that would allow coal to go from the bins down into waiting tenders below. I have no idea, how long it took to fill one of these things. I imagine it was a pretty slow process because of the size of the tenders that the late steam engines would have been able to pull. So anyhow, but I thought this second tower was kind of interesting just because it shows some things that the first one does not, and it is, as you might imagine, bigger yet than the first one.
Oh, that was awesome. I'm here in New Buffalo, Michigan, and I was doing a little photography and video of this old coaling tower, and I heard a horn, and I thought, could I be this lucky? And I couldn't see anything behind me because there's enough of a grade there, and then all of a sudden, there this train was, and it is hauling. So how cool was that, huh? Pretty neat. I'm still at the coaling tower here in New Buffalo, and that is a piece of coal. I'm sure that hails from days when this was in operation with some pretty big steam engines. Love that sign. It's pretty sweet. Safety today, our investment for tomorrow. Chassis System, New Buffalo, Michigan. For those of you that are having a hard time reading it. And there's actually quite a bit of coal laying around here, so I thought, well, I'll grab a couple pieces and break it up and use it on my coal loader at home. Why not?